Hello friends, glad to meet you again on the Central Asia Roads channel. Today is the 12th of April 2024, 9:30 a.m. We are going to the neighboring village of Ak-Suu. This trip is very different from the others. Today we are not traveling as usual, not hunting for views and spectacles. On the contrary, we are going on an important matter. We spent more than a year planning and thinking about this matter, so we finally decided. And we want to share our plans and thoughts with you. Maybe you've got a similar experience, maybe a completely different one, or perhaps you want to warn us about some undesirable things. We will be happy with every kind of reply and welcome any feedback. Along the way, we will show you the road and those things that we pass by, as we usually do. If we see something remarkable or something worth your attention, then we will comment on it, this or that way. And if we miss anything, please ask about what you want or add your own information about the objects you are familiar with. Now we are leaving Kyrgyzstan along one of the main streets, Karasayev Street, formerly Telman Street. It crosses the city from west to east, and we are driving east precisely. We are passing by the entrance to the largest of city parks. It is named Park Pobdi, which means Victory Park. So far it doesn't look like springtime park at all. No blossoms or even any leaves on the trees. But at the end of the month, it will quickly change its appearance. It will be very fresh and cozy. This morning we can see cyclists gathering next to the park. The traditional bicycle ride will soon begin at this point. It's a ride through the city, which is organized every spring. Everyone, both adults and school children, can participate in it. Today is Friday. It's a special day of week in Islamic society. It is both a weekday and weekend. Many Muslim people have a whole day off or stop their work much earlier than usual. So the streets are quite crowded now, more than another weekday morning or even on Sundays. Those who remember our video about the dangers of mountain roads, let's look here. This is another example of driving by someone's own rules. No, we don't say it's a feature of our place. Probably in every city of the world you can meet a one who drives as if he or she is alone on the road. But we think in Kyrgyzstan they are more dangerous than in Western countries. That's because no one brings them to justice. And now, it seems, is a special case. Note this flashing light on the roof and some specific stripes on the car. It's not a police car, but it's evidently not one of ordinary mortals. Now we keep driving along the same street and will leave the city soon. It brings us further to the village of Ak-Suu without turning anywhere. So, what kind of village is this? And why are we going there? The second name of the village of Ak-Suu is Teplokliachenka. It has been preserved since the times of the USSR. In Russian it means place of warm or hot springs. By the way, the Kyrgyz name, Ak-Suu, means white river. That river becomes white when streams fast and strong, after rainfalls and especially while snow melts from the mountain peaks. Then the spume in the stream gets so thick that you can't see water through it. Now in April, the Ak-Suu River flows moderately and has a rather usual gray color. And in the gorge, which is located behind the village, several geothermal springs come to the surface. Their temperatures are 50 degrees Celsius or 122 degrees Fahrenheit and above. So they are definitely hot, not warm. The water in the springs has a complex mineral composition. It has pretty high mineralization and includes calcium, sodium, magnesium, radon, sulfides, etc. It's recommended for therapeutic baths for various diseases. The first balneological resorts were built in Ak-Suu a very long time ago, 100 years or so. Most of them have not survived nowadays. Later, a large sanatorium was opened. It had several buildings on both banks of the river. After the collapse of the Soviet Union, it gradually developed into separate resort areas. Some of them were converted from old ones. Others were built anew and just keep using the old water lines. The largest of the surviving buildings was converted into a children's sanatorium. It's for the rehabilitation of children who had recovered from polio or suffering from cerebral palsy. Well, now we are heading to the Omur-Daryia recreation area. If we translate correctly, it means river of life. This tourist zone is quite popular among local residents. Those who come to Kyrgyzstan on business trips visit it too. As for tourists, they prefer other sources. Omur-Daryia looks quite authentic. It's not as tourist-oriented as some other resorts, but it is renewed enough to not feel unhygienically as in the oldest resorts. The village of Ak-Suu is located 9 kilometers from Kyrgyzstan. A gorge with hot springs and recreation areas are a couple of kilometers further. The weather this morning is quite gloomy and cool. The more pleasant it will be to take a hot bath. The road we are driving on is well known to our regular viewers. It goes east from Kyrgyzstan. Along this road you can get to all points that are located in the easternmost part of Kyrgyzstan. It leads to Zergalin and Turjan Ak-Suu Gorge and further through Chong-Ashu Pass to Inalchek or Sarijas. You also can turn in the other direction before Turjan Ak-Suu, and then through the Kizilkiya Pass you can get to the village of Santash. A little further, the Kyrgyzstan border point is situated. There you can get to Kazakhstan. This winter we visited many of these places. You can watch our videos about those trips. And most guests of Kyrgyzstan know this road as leading to Altyn-Arashan. This is a long and very picturesque gorge. It begins also behind the village of Ak-Suu. It is almost inaccessible for a car. Only an all-terrain vehicle can pass it confidently and without loss. In Altyn-Arashan, there is the most famous and popular hot spring in this area. It has several recreation areas, both free and very expensive. Why has the most difficult to access of many sources become the most popular? It is not surprising. The fact is that a hiking route to the mountain lake Issyk-Kul passes through it. There are some places to stay overnight on the lake. They are of varying degrees of comfort. After an overnight stay, you can return to Altyn-Arashan, and you also can continue the route and descend through another pass. Then you come into the neighboring Kyrgyzstan Gorge, and after that return to Kyrgyzstan City. You probably noticed the condition of the road. As you can see, this asphalt has seen better days. The most pitiful thing is that the coating is not too old, but it is so fragile that it collapses almost before our eyes. In some places it melts, sags, and forms longitudinal waves. In others, it breaks off, leaving holes. A variety of vehicles travel along this road. Not many 18-wheelers, but quite a lot of heavy dump trucks carrying coal, stone, sand, and so on. The road runs along the agricultural fields owned by local residents. Springtime work will begin on them very soon. Tractors and combines will also hit the roads. They apply themselves to drive aside, but the roads are not wide enough. As for field uses, in this area potatoes and onions are grown. But most of the fields like these are allocated for fodder crops. Kyrgyzstan is a country of cattle breeding, and since even in winter videos you constantly see herds on the roads, imagine how many there will be now. The condition of the road, the mass movement of cattle, and the manner of driving make a simple short route a real adventure. And beyond the village, the most interesting things begin. You'll see soon. Returning to our mineral baths, we must say, we have been planning to try them for quite a long time. First of all, because we were skeptical about them. It's hard to believe you will get a long-lasting effect after simply laying in the water. Not for years, but just several times. Even more so to get rid of some diseases. No matter how healing that water may be. Such a quick and lasting result, if it's possible. And the lists of indications for each of the springs are too large and varied. There are similarities with the readings of drinking mineral water. Right, but you need to drink water for a long time for a sustainable result. It is unlikely that anyone promises healing after only a month of drinking this way. And here is just a 3-week course of baths. Not for well-being improvement, but for seriously ill patients. However, the lists do not include many types of serious diseases. For example, no cancer there. On the contrary, hot baths are contraindicated for tumors. Heart and circulation diseases include in indications just at its most benign. And the stories of how those baths help people who suffered from the same symptoms we have. They cause ambivalent feelings. On the one hand, they make our doubts even more. On the other hand, they give hope. Anyway, we didn't wait for any miraculous cures. We just decided to give it a try. After all, it is near our current place. It's not expensive, and the procedure is pleasant. Even if it turns out to be the most ordinary hot bath with plain water, we would be glad to get it. We don't have a bathtub at home, only a shower, like most detached houses in Kyrgyzstan. The other reason we didn't start for a long time, we could not decide which source to choose. There are many of them in the Issyk-Kul region, and they have different compositions. Health facilities and resort areas are also different. Moreover, the ones we heard about the most were the ones we liked the least. Not far from Kyrgyzstan, there is plenty to choose from. Ak-Suu, Jetty-Oguz, Zergalin Resort, Chanaruktu. We called the Jetty-Oguz Sanatorium back in the fall. They told us what time we could arrive and how much it would cost. And we finally got there at the beginning of winter. But we found neither the ticket office nor the administration. The sanatorium looked closed. Perhaps we will go there again. The springs there are not hot, but warm, from 25 to 42 degrees Celsius or from 77 to 107 degrees Fahrenheit. The resort has both communal pools and private baths. By the way, for several months during the fall and winter, the resorts in Ak-Suu were closed due to problems with compliance with sanitary and hygienic standards. Because of this, we also did not think seriously about medicinal baths for some time. We visited Chanaruktu in winter and saw only communal pools. There were a lot of people, and prices were higher than at the old Soviet resorts. We also saw free swimming pools in open areas, but far from Kyrgyzstan, in the Ak-Suu gorge. There a hydrogen sulfide hot spring comes to the surface. The smell of water is not as bad as you might imagine. When we arrived there, we were not ready to bathe. But when we're there again, we'll probably try it. And, since we are talking about distant open sources, let's say a few words about the one we would especially like to visit. This is the hot spring Karatash, Black Rock. It is located behind the village of Inalchek on the Sarıjaz River, in a hard-to-reach place under a black rock. This is quite far from Kyrgyzstan, about 150 kilometers. The most interesting thing about this source is not that it is very spacious, hot, and located in a beautiful place. And the fact is that in springtime, summer, and autumn this source simply does not exist. For most of the year, it is completely hidden by the waters of the Sarıjaz River and comes to the surface only in winter, when the river becomes very shallow. However, Inalchek and everything connected with it is a completely different story. We will definitely tell you about this amazing place when we go there. As for the medicinal baths, which we can take now and regularly, we settled on Ak-Suu Gorge Springs. Because these resorts are closest to us, it takes a little over an hour from leaving the house to returning. It's accounting for the fact that we do not rush home after a bath. Every time we try to relax for at least 10 minutes in the fresh air. The hot springs and, accordingly, the resort areas are located shallow in the gorge and quite close to each other. A few words about the village, then. Ak-Suu is a fairly large village. There is almost everything you need for life there, maybe excluding large supermarkets and some bank branches. And there are 2 network gas stations. That's considered a lot for a village. To get into the gorge, you need to turn right before the green gas station. There is even an Orthodox church in Ak-Suu village. This is the same monument of ancient wooden architecture as the church in Kyrgyzstan. It's less famous, however, and we think it's quite overlooked. Also on the bank of the river, there is a unique tourist attraction. This is a private local history museum at the mill. The museum is interesting in itself, and in addition, it was almost entirely created by the hands of one person. Until recently, tourists passed information about this museum from hand to hand. The address was not publicly available. This year it finally appeared on some maps. So, we are planning to visit it later. Today is our second time here, and we took our first bath yesterday. We arrived at 6 p.m., and there were quite a lot of visitors. The cashier said that usually there are fewer people in the morning, and the least crowded in the afternoon. In the morning, it actually turned out to be less, but not much. So, when we said second time, we just meant the mineral baths, not visiting Ak-Suu Gorge in common. We have been there several times already, in every season of the year. We like that river between high cliffs and the forest landscapes of this gorge. The fact is it's quite narrow, and the sun doesn't stay here very long. But there's a certain charm to it. There is another important reason to go to Ak-Suu in the morning or afternoon. On the way back, the evening sun shines towards the traffic and literally blinds drivers. In addition, the roads here are very dusty. When your car and other cars raise clouds of dust and backlit, it's not driving but a sort of torture. And there are several difficult intersections in the village of Ak-Suu. It is also better to pass them at less busy hours. By the way, we saw something new while we were preparing this video for publication. One of the badly damaged sections of the road in Ak-Suu began to be repaired, that one which is closer to the gorge. It will likely last through the season. Hope they finally manage the street in front of the park, too. Returning to our mineral bathing. To take a bath at Omur-Daryia, all you need is your desire. We guess it's the same at other local resorts. No doctor's referrals, examinations, etc. Information about the composition of water, indications, and contraindications can be read on information boards outside and inside buildings. The recommended time for one procedure is about 15 minutes. It may be less. It depends on the age and condition of the body. It is highly undesirable to stay in the bath for more than 20 minutes. The room is provided for 45 minutes. During this time, it is quite possible to do everything you need without rushing. Such a session costs 100 soms per person, approximately $1.12. Hot water and steam quickly relax you. If possible, it is better to open the window, and even better to arrive first, then it will be much fresher in the bathroom. After the bath, it is recommended to keep the skin under the influence of mineral water. That is, you should not shower or wipe yourself thoroughly. Ideally, you need to sit quietly for half an hour and dry your skin naturally, but visitors don't have that opportunity now, only outside in comfortably warm weather. And we're expectedly meeting a herd of cattle on this road. You have already seen lots of cattle in our other videos, so you could notice that not all animals respond to the sound of the car horn. They have long been accustomed to walking along the roads, so they are not afraid of cars. Dogs also do not always drive the herd in one direction as they should. Sometimes it seems that the dogs only get in the way. It certainly depends on the shepherd. When you see the herd on the one side of the road, and it keeps walking straight, and no one becomes separated or jumping around, it's a proper herd of a skilled and smart shepherd. You will drive past it quickly and easy. And if you see from far away that it's any disorder in the herd, you can be sure this disorder will just increase when you get closer. Sometimes we guess the shepherds just depict they make an effort to gather the cattle. And indeed, it's a sort of play for them. By the way, once we saw a real case of such dangerous play. It was not a shepherd who played with a young ox on the roadside, just an owner of that ox, we suppose. He frightened the animal and the bull jumped to the road, right under the wheels of the cars. And that man was not young, and there was a mature woman with him. That's the one more serious problem of Central Asian roads. So we passed by the village and drove over the gorge. Here 2 rivers merge and the road divides. The right one goes up the Altan-Arishan River into the gorge of the same name. The cows have been driven there. The left road goes along the Ak-Suu River, or rather, repeats its numerous meanders. Here the road becomes very difficult. You should drive along it at moderate speed and with increased attention. To close the topic of road dangers for today, we communicate with guests of Kyrgyzstan and with those who are just planning to visit the country. And we realized one unpleasant thing. Everyone keeps in mind that it is not easy to drive on mountain roads, just due to natural reasons. But moreover, because of the road's quality, abandonment, and carelessness of local drivers, foreign people are afraid to drive here themselves. They avoid using their own or rented car. As a result, tourists cannot plan their own interesting routes. They also beware even repeating other people's routes, already traveled and described by more experienced travelers. We feel so sad about it. If you know how we can change this situation, write your thoughts in the comments. Or maybe we are exaggerating, and everything is fine with tourism here? One way or another, We are trying to be careful on the roads, and as far as possible, we try to enjoy those natural values that have so far been preserved. The first in this area is the Ak-Suu Health Center. It is also the most famous. It was built recently and looks quite presentable. For many people, this is more of an entertainment establishment than a health resort. People come here once a week or less, just to rest a little, to relax. Ak-Suu has no bathrooms, but hot spring water fills large outdoor pools. There are cafes here, and many souvenirs are sold. A little further is Omur-Daryia. It occupies a large area on the opposite bank. Some of the buildings were built during the Soviet period. Some details of the landscape design are reminiscent of those times. There is a building with bathrooms, a small hotel, a dining room, and several small outdoor swimming pools. We want to inspect the area after the procedure. At Omur-Daryia, you can park your car on the premises. There are free spaces both in the evening and in the morning. There is a parking lot next to the hotel. Perhaps there will be many more visitors in the summer. In general, the area makes a pleasant impression. There are plenty of benches to sit outside. You can go up into the forest or down to the river. There is a stone staircase behind the sculpture of a doe and a fawn, but it is now blocked and you cannot climb it. Some construction work is being carried out on this slope. A bulldozer is leveling the site, and a path or road is being laid to the side. Maybe the resort area is expanding, and we could see the results at the end of the course. We plan to take a course of 14 to 16 mineral baths. They can be taken every other day or 2 days in a row, and break on the third. After the full course, we will also write whether our condition as a whole has changed, and how exactly. We will answer specific symptoms in the comments according to your requests. The bathrooms here are quite old. The water pressure is good, especially in the morning. The water is noticeably hot. It needs to be diluted at least a little. We don't know where the cold water comes from. We plan to ask the staff during our next visits. The water does not have any specific color or distinct odor. It is subtly different from ordinary tap water in some way, but what exactly is difficult to say. No salt is felt either in the water itself or on the body. On the contrary, after a bath, the skin remains unusually smooth for a long time. What can we say about the effect of baths on our bodies? Oddly enough, even after the first 2 sessions, our overall well-being improved and we began to fall asleep better. The manifestation of certain symptoms also decreased. We do not observe any negative effects. And at the end, as usual, some useful information. The description of our channel contains links to photos and videos taken during our trips, as well as many other works. All of them can be purchased for both personal and commercial use. Feel free to ask questions and leave comments. Stay tuned for new trips. Subscribe to the channel. We wish you a pleasant viewing.